Hi there, welcome to the Bottled Up podcast. I'm Lou.
And I'm John. And today we're going to talk about controlled drinking.
Right, so it's an interesting statement, isn't it? Controlled drinking.
Yeah. A lot of people come to me and they talk about, they don't want to give up drinking.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to control the drinking, To some extent, what they feel is that if they're controlling their drinking, then that's normal drinking, because, again, we need to go back to the fact that people drink because they get something from it. It helps them in some way. Now, people say it's because it helps them, socialize, or it's their social life, or, it just helps them relax, or lots and lots of different things. So there'll be to actually give it up altogether, to give up anything altogether is actually a bit of a loss, So alcohol can end up meaning an awful lot to people, particularly if they are a bit dependent on it.
And what would you say to people that say very firmly, as AA, for example, that you must give up drinking altogether?
I would say that it's horses for courses.
Okay.
I don't think it's the same solution for every single person. I know people who have had a problem and can drink safely enough now. Academic I worked with, he was like that, and he worked in the alcohol field. I was a bit surprised, but he managed to give it up. He had the motivation to give it up. And then he started drinking again, and he was okay with it.
Okay, right.
The problem is we don't know who it works for and who it doesn't work for.
Right, okay.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And the only way to find out is to try it.
Right, okay.
Although there are people who you look at and you think, nah,
right,
it's just not going to happen.
Do you think some people, it's a low threshold approach to the problem and find they feel it's more kind of manageable for them than the idea of giving it up completely?
I do think it's more manageable. Yeah. It's a cake and eat it situation. I don't want to give up alcohol, but I want to reduce all the problems that go along with it. So maybe I can do controlled drinking.
Okay, so it's not normal drinking then?
Oh, no. They think it might be normal drinking. But no, it's not normal drinking. And it's and what I have to do when I'm working with somebody in controlled drinking is I have to take them through the kind of downside of it to say, do you really want to do this? Because if you do, you need to do it in this.
Okay.
And this is what it's going to be like. And I have to tell them it's not normal drinking. It's not a case of you can drink whenever you like. There's lots and lots of rules go along with it.
Okay, well, the obvious question is, okay, what are those, all these different...
First of all, I have to tell them that depending on how dependent they are on alcohol,
okay,
how dependent, if they're severely dependent on alcohol, the chances of success are pretty small.
Okay.
And as I said already, who can go back to controlled drinking and who can't, there's no measure for that. There's none at all. So there is no guarantee that if you go through all of these conditions, that you will actually end up being a controlled drinker.
But I can understand why little people going through some of the stuff that you went through would want to have a go. So how would you approach that then? If somebody said, okay, how do we do this? What steps would you take them through?
Well, the first thing I would talk to them about is that, that, again, there is no guarantee. I'd like to say there was, but there isn't. And so we look at how dependent they were in the first place. We look at what the reasons for wanting to control the drinking would be. And that is the reasons for not wanting to go to abstinence and the reasons for also wanting to reduce the drinking. So we need to know something about that. That would be the first thing.
Okay, for somebody listening who hoped that they could just do it from here, is there a way they could do it themselves, or do you think it is done with somebody like you?
The thing is, as I said, and I'll go into in a second, there are rules, and you need to set the rules. When you set rules, there's need to be some accountability that you're actually going along with these rules. For example, I go on a diet, and I think the second chocolate biscuit's probably okay during my diet.
Yes.
So I let myself away with quite a lot,
Yes.
and then wonder why I haven't lost weight at the end of it, So, but if somebody else is watching me, then I might only have the one chocolate biscuit. In fact, I might not even have any chocolate biscuits.
Yeah. So it's accountability then we're talking about.
The accountability is important, and we can very seldom be accountable to ourselves. Most of us are not really that self-disciplined.
So somebody listened to you, for example, or a therapist that would work with someone. I'm sure not all therapists do, but you would be happy if someone approached you and to say, okay, we'll have a go at controlled drinking.
I have worked with a number of people on controlled drinking. Some have been successful and some less so.
Okay.
And there are various reasons for both. Yeah. Okay, the first rule really is you need to be abstinent for at least 3 months.
Okay.
That always goes down really well.
I'm sure, yes.
Because I want to start controlled drinking tomorrow. No. Wrong. The first thing you have to do is let the alcohol get out of your system. Okay, that's only going to take about probably 14 days at the outside. For somebody who is being dried out, 14 days is quite a considerable time. It can be anything from 5 to 14. So alcohol is completely out of the system.
Yeah.
But that's not the problem. The problem is the habits that you developed.
Okay, I understand, yeah.
Right? Okay, you say you are somebody who is wine o'clock. Right, 6 o'clock, or the sun's over the yard arm, or whatever it is. That's when I have a drink. Or I have a drink when I'm feeling anxious. Or I have a drink every time I pass a pub. Or I have a drink. So there are habits that we develop.
Yeah.
Now, habits take a while to develop and they take a while to break.
Yeah, we know this more and more, don't we, with neuroscience and things like that.
With the neuroscience, it will tell us this. And we're talking somewhere between 30 and 90 days. For alcohol, we usually say 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 months. And 3 months, we should break a habit. But it's not just a case of breaking a habit, it's developing some new habits, developing some positive habits. So if somebody is, they leave work, go to the pub every night and the way home, then that's a habit we need to break. Because if you go and you sit in the pub, but I'm only having a shandy or I'm only having a soft drink, how long is that going to last?
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. As somebody said, if you sit in the barbers long enough, you'll need a haircut.
Yeah.
If you sit in the pub long enough, you probably need a drink. So it's breaking that habit, and that can be quite difficult.
So it can't be prescriptive, you're saying, because everybody has their own personal story and narrative with drink that has to be unravelled by the therapist or the helper.
Habits are very, very powerful.
Yeah.
The habits are powerful. Years ago, I tried to teach my first wife to drive. What I had to do is I had to think through what is it I do, clutch, change gear, and my driving was terrible, absolutely awful. Why? Because I was thinking about it. See, that's what happens with habits. What happens is it all starts in the frontal cortex and then it gets filed away. And then medulla oblongata right at the back, which is the oldest part of the brain. So it goes from here to the kind of pending file or the archive back here. And you don't need to bother about it. And that's where your habits are stored. So you're not actually cluttering up your brain at the frontal cortex, where this is where you're doing all your thinking.
Yes.
Because it's back here and it's driving automatically, literally. Now, how many times have you gone, you're driven somewhere and you arrive there and you think, I don't remember the journey. I don't remember. Were those traffic lights red? Or did I see somebody? Why?
You're on automatic. Yeah.
Because you're on automatic pilot. And that's what habits are. So you're not actually thinking about them. It's been driven from back here. So in order to get rid of that, we have to break it. Now, neuroscience now tells us that we need to create some new neural pathways, which is the new way of doing a habit, And you get the old neural pathway to sort of get weeds over the top of it, and make them unpassable.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So that's the other way of looking at it.
Yeah.
So that's what you're trying to do to begin with. You're trying to break the alcohol type habits and create new habits. Now, those new habits may be about timekeeping, like just coming straight home from work. It might be about exercise. It might be about healthy habits. It might be about a number of things. What you need to do is you need to sit down and start looking at lifestyle and say, well, okay, what is it we need to change here? And there has to be lifestyle changes. It has to be lifestyle changes because you're trying to get rid of some of these habits. Okay. So then the next thing you have to do is you have to start and say, well, okay, what does this controlled drinking look like?
And is that, again, personal to each person?
It's negotiable.
Okay.
If I'm sitting working with somebody, and there are some things which are just non-negotiable. If they say, no, I don't want to do 3 months, and they say, well, it's pointless me working with you. I'm not interested in working with you unless you follow my advice. We're both setting ourselves up for failure here, and I'm not that interested. Once it comes to the amount that people want to drink as a habit, then you need to start and say, okay, we're going to have to set limits. And these limits are not 15 pints a night.
No.
These are fairly small. And we start off maybe just a one drink. Maybe one drink and home. Not sitting in a pub all night, just a one drink and home. So that might be the first thing that you do. And that's only once a week. And then the next week you might say, okay, you can go 2 nights where you have one drink and home. And then maybe the third week you just say, well, okay, you can maybe have 2 drinks. But you need to start and set limits, And when you sort of have to leave the pub and when you don't leave the pub. Do you understand?
I do. It strikes me as being actually quite hard for somebody who's been really, just taken over by drink and having no discipline whatsoever. You're now talking about setting some quite disciplined limits, aren't you?
Absolutely. So what quite often happens is people look at this and they say, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? It's too much of a hassle. And this is why, right at the beginning, I have to start and talk about this is not normal drinking. This is not you drinking, but with impunity now. If you continue to drink heavily, you'll just go right back to where you started. Because that neural pathway might be a bit weeded over at the moment, but it can be cleared very quickly.
Yeah. So I suppose the payoff then for a drinker is that at least if you did this, you won't have to give up your precious drink altogether, which has become very important to you, hasn't it?
You're not giving up your drink, but you're giving up the freedom of drinking. And because you're giving up the freedom of drinking, because it is so curtailed, because it is so controlled, then people very often think, this really isn't worth it. This is not what I really want. But sometimes people don't even get that far. Sometimes what people find is that when they do this sort of 3 months abstinence, they think, oh, wait a minute, like I was talking to somebody the other day, we were looking at, controlled drinking actually. And we're maybe a few weeks into it and he's saying, I'm sleeping better. I find I've got more energy,
Yeah.
The domestic situation is much improved, So maybe in a couple of weeks' time, we'll say, well, if those things continued, and if they have continued, do you really want to gamble it? Because it is a gamble, And I don't know what he's going to say. He may say yes, he may say no,
Just struck me as being quite a good psychological tactic in a way, is that it's a low threshold. Yeah, we'll do controlled drinking, just give it up for 3 months and it can come back.
Yeah.
But then that 3 months then shows them what it's like to not have all the hassle of drinking, all the horrible feelings of self-hate.
Well, there is a carrot at the end of it, but it's a kind of try before you buy. And so people are getting a look at what might be a new lifestyle. And they might like it. They might hate it. They might just not think it's worth it at all. Sometimes I just don't, they decide halfway through that I'm not doing this. I'm just going to go back to drinking again.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's sad. But I mean, that's the issue.
Okay, and well, thank you very much for that. I know that I think there's other things you're going to say, because you told me that the other thing you work with is cutting down in drinking.
Yeah.
So that will be another podcast.
Another podcast.
So what are the takeaways then?
Well, the first takeaway is that this isn't normal drinking. It's for people who desperately want to change, but desperately do not want to not drink.
Okay. Yeah.
It can be used as an interim measure, and because sometimes rather than just introduce kind of controlled drinking, sometimes I try to slip in sort of dry January, things like that, whereas there is a 30-day abstinence. Okay, try to change things like that, But this is not normal drinking, and some people just, as I said, feel nah, too much effort. It's not right. There's loads and loads of rules round about it, and you have to be very disciplined for this to work. And there is no guarantee. But for some people who manage it, very often, even if they do manage it, they end up abstinent afterwards. Because again, too much effort, too much involved.
I suspect there are people that will have clicked on this podcast who think, I don't want to give up my drink, really. We'll go for controlled drinking.
Yeah.
And maybe thinking, I think I'll try the podcast on cut down your drinking.
Well, I mean, of the people who come to me, 90% of them say, I don't really want to be abstinent. And this is a way of maybe doing something about it, It's, as you say, a low threshold. It's like a wedge.
Yeah.
You're getting in there. We'll have already got a dialogue started about it.
Yeah.
And whether controlled drinking is a station along the way or whether it's the destination is a moot point. But at least we've got a dialogue talking about drinking.
Okay, thank you very much. And do listen to our other podcasts as well. Please like and subscribe if you like the podcast. And if you like what we're doing, please leave us a good review or even share with somebody else. It helps us reach as many people as possible.